Good afternoon, everybody. My name is David Chinnery, and we're here again for our Lunch in the Garden program, brought to you by Cornell Cooperative Extension of Rensselaer County on YouTube. And we're glad you're here today. We have a large number of people signed up, which is pretty exciting. And you can hear our phones chirping in the background. But today we have a very special program on dahlias, and I'm very excited to get started with our speaker. Our procedure today, if you haven't been here with us in the past, is that we'd like you to type your questions in the chat box. We're going to be looking at the chat box at the end of Mary's program and asking Mary the questions. Marcy and I will do that. So if you have any questions as we go along, type them in the chat box, and then we'll catch up with those at the end. Okay? If you like the program today, we're going to be having a couple more of these still. Going into April. Next week we have a program on landscape mistakes, landscape do's and don'ts, again on Wednesday, which is, what is it? The first Wednesday of April, I guess, April 2nd, I think. Or no, that's wrong. That's March. Whatever next April.
I think it's the 6th.
April 6th, thank you. Very good. Okay, so yeah, you can join us again next Wednesday at noon, and we're going to be having another one of our programs. And also, if you like our programs, you can go over to our website, which is ccerensselaer.org, and you can click on the donate button and let us know that you like the program that way. So that's also a very big plus. Okay, so Marcy, do I have anything else to say? She's shaking her head.
You're good. You're good. I think that you can go.
Okay. Well, we're very glad to have Mary here. Mary Feasel is a master gardener with the Monroe County Master Gardeners, and she's a member of the Rochester Dahlia Society, and a judge for the, I guess, the National Dahlia Society, right? Is that Mary? Is that correct?
The National Dahlia Society is in Great Britain. I am an accredited judge with the American Dahlia. If you look under National Dahlia Society, you'll always get Great Britain, but they have great videos. They have a lot of tutorials, but it's not Rochester. It's not the United States. It's the American Dahlia Society, the ADS. And I am an accredited judge. I am a senior judge, which means that I've gone through several steps to be advanced to the top, and I am the top. Okay, so I'm a senior judge. That means that I get to teach other people, and that when there is a national show or any shows, I get to judge seedlings, and I've got some seedling things to show you too, because I like to grow from seeds. You can grow from seeds, or you can grow from tubers. And so I will start now, but I know that you like the pictures. Everybody's going to like the pictures because these are beautiful pictures, but you're going to say these are too fussy. I can't be bothered to grow them. And yes and no, they are and they aren't. They do need 5 hours, at least 5 hours a day of sunshine. They need to be fertilized. They need deep watering a couple of days a week if in the dry season. They need staking, and they need to be dug up and brought inside for the winter if you wanted to. If you don't, they don't cost more than a lot of the plants that you buy at garden stores. You really love them, then you want to save them. But if you want to enjoy them for a year, buy some more next year. It's too bad you don't have a Dahlia Society around you. I think there are only 4 Dahlia Societies in New York State that are part of the American Dahlia Society. 2 of them happen to be on Long Island, and it's funny that there's a Long Island Dahlia Society and a Mid-Island Dahlia Society because I think that they had some kind of disagreement and they decided to split. So one of them has a trial garden for all the seedlings that come in. If they want to be part of the classification guide, they go to a trial garden, and the Mid-Island Dahlia Society has that. But the other Dahlia Society doesn't, but there are two on Long Island. There's one in the southern tier around Elmira or Corning, around that area, and there's one in Rochester. And the one in Rochester has members in Syracuse, and in Buffalo and Niagara, down towards Arcade, all the way. So I suppose if you were going to be part of a Dahlia Society, you'd have to look north. You'd have to go, there is one, I think, closer than Rochester. I think you'd be better off going towards the one in Connecticut. But it's really nice to be in a Dahlia Society. You get a lot of support and you get a lot of, you get to see everybody's gardens, which are great. So anyway, this is a macro of a Dahlia that I had put in a show, and they have photography sections in Dahlia shows. And I will probably say Dahlia because Rochesterians do have flat A's and there's nothing I can do about it. I will say Dahlia when I remember. Dahlia if I'm Rochesterian. So these are the types, the forms of dahlias that we have. And this starts here with formal decorative. You see that they have regular, they actually are ray florets, but I'll call them petals because ray florets seems to be highfalutin. So they have regular petals. This is an informal decorative. Some of the petals can kind of wave out a little bit. This happens to be Spartacus. I can see that. This is a semi-cactus. It's pointed at the end, but the edges, see how it's flatter towards the back? The semi-cactus has flat petals as they go towards the center. Then they have a straight cactus, which is curled all the way to the end, incurved cactus, where they sort of bend upward. They have laciniated cactuses, which is all of the edges are all fringy. Then they have balls and miniature balls, which the difference is only in the size. If it's less than 3 inches, it would be miniature ball. Anything more than that, they would be a ball. And then pom-poms, these little guys, are no more than 2 inches. Then there's the open ones. There's this is novelty. It doesn't fit into any category, but it's still open. This one's an orchid and an orchette. And an orchette is a hybrid between collarette, which is one row of petals all the way around, and then little tiny petaloids in the middle, and an orchid, which is rolled petals, and there's 8 of them. Orchette is a combination of those. The water lilies are beautiful. They're sort of flat. Stellar is a lot like the formal decorative, except their petals are long and thin. And then there's novelty double, which doesn't fit anywhere else, and it's double. They put it there. Then there's singles, and then there's mignon singles, little tiny ones. So there are actually 21 forms of dahlias. Now this one I'm going to have to make bigger because I did not know how to do this. All right, now here's the sizes. They have the double A's, which are giant, over 10 inches in diameter for a flower. I don't grow a lot of those because I like to put them in bouquets and arrangements, and they're too top heavy, and I say they don't play well with the other flowers, and they don't. The A is large, 8 to 10 inches, and then B is medium, 6 to 8 inches. Not there because in the stores you'll see that they said that they have dinner plate dahlias, and dinner plate dahlias technically would be bigger than a B, but when you're in the store and you get a dinner plate dahlias, they're really talking about the ones that aren't border dahlias, the ones that grow 5 to 6 feet tall. Those are dinner plate dahlias. But a lot of the ones that you see there could be salad plate or even dessert plate dahlias, and they're still named dinner plate dahlias. Then there's the miniature that's 4 inches across, and then ball and miniature ball. Pom-pom are very small. Mignon single up to 2 inches. Now, I don't remember how many I went about that. All right, here's just a couple of types that I was just talking about. This is a water lily. You can see that they're sort of cupped upward. And this one is a ball because their petals kind of go all the way around in a circle. And they're pretty round. They're pretty round. This was a laciniated. See, they have all these little edges. They're just broken up like frilly. This is a collarette, and this is a single. This is from Longfield Gardens. So if you really like flower pictures, just go to any one of the ones that are that sell dahlias and just look for them and just look at the colors. They're just beautiful to look at. When I get all my spring catalogs, which actually came earlier than spring, I just look through the flowers. They just make me feel good. Now this is Swan Island dahlias. I got this here because Swan Island dahlias is not only the largest retail dahlia place in the country, but they have a lot of things that are helpful. And the right part is, if you want to shop, if you want to see what they look like, you look under this heading. But here is a help center, and it's how to grow dahlias, right? So you click on that, and then you will see that they are divided into spring and fall and winter. And it'll tell you, this is spring. You click on spring, and it will tell you when to plant, where to plant, how to stake them, how to water, how to start them early indoors, how to grow them in containers, and how to make cuttings. And that cuttings is if you start them and you start them, they start to grow, and you cut the tips off, and you can put them into soil, you can put them into an oasis. I start my cuttings in oasis because I have better success. I don't lose as many. So that's, in the summer, I'll tell you all of the places. And if you look at the summer one, it would tell you what pests you would find, what to do for the pests, and if you were looking for viruses, how about that? When does it need to be fertilized? How to stake them? That would be, and then they'll have fall, and then they'll have winter, how to keep them for the year. I got this picture here because right now I went to Aldi's this morning, and I saw even dahlias this morning there in Aldi's. And you can buy them. Oh, it'll stop. It will stop. Let me just stop. I guess I can. I'm just going to have to wait. All right. So when you buy from the store, you have to think they may not always be what is pictured. They come from overseas, a lot of them from Holland, and they are often mislabeled. So if you're going to buy them from the store, first be aware that they may not be what you thought they were going to be. And they are all going to say, dinner plate, but they may not all be dinner plate. These actually, Islander, Thomas Edison, Kelvin's Floodlight, those, and even Shiloh Noel, those are dinner plate ones, but a lot of the other ones, not so much. They'll call everything dinner plate. But when they take them out of the fields with machines, and they're broken. You get often. Now this one says this is double Jill. It came with broken necks. I threw it in the ground just to see. Just because it is growing roots does not mean it's viable. And it's broken here and it's broken here. The tuber was alive, and so it is growing roots, but it will never grow a stem because the eyes are only here at the necks, and the necks were broken. So here you get them from the store, and they're going to be, I guarantee they're going to be broken. This is another one where this is broken off without the neck. This is only one tuber on this one. It's broken off. That's nothing. This one is broken here. It's broken here. But this has an eye, so this one is fine. And here is an eye. This one is fine. This one would have been okay, but you would have had to cut off all these extra ones so that they didn't rot in the ground. This one looks okay. This one doesn't. This one doesn't. This one doesn't. So
Mary, can you give us a little more explanation of the tuber and the neck and the eye? Or is that coming up?
It's coming.
Okay, sorry about that. Oh, there you go. Beautiful.
You knew exactly, didn't you? The
Well,
next thing I was going to tell you.
Yeah, this is confusing for a lot of people.
Well, it would be, but I wanted to show you what comes in these packages. They're going to be broken. They're going to have broken necks. They're not going to grow. Here's when you buy from some place that's a reputable place, they'll usually just sell you one tuber, and it's one tuber with an eye. And I'll show you an eye pretty soon. But first I wanted to show you, this is the parts of a tuber, a viable tuber. This is the neck. It's kind of flared, and it would be by that main stem. It'll be part of the main stem. This is the neck, and this is the body. This is what makes it stay all winter. It's got energy, it's got stored sugar. This is here's the crown, here's the neck, here's the body, and here's the same thing. crown, neck, and body. Here's an eye. The eye is going to be right in here. Actually, this looks like an eye right here. The eyes are going to be on the neck and only on the neck. A lot of times people think they look like potatoes, and potatoes have eyes all over. But dahlias are not actually tubers, they're just a root. They're actually a root that got nice and thick and sturdy. And it has an eye only where it attached to the stem. When the eye starts to grow, it becomes a sprout. And this is what is going to give you your whole dahlia plant from one sprout. As you plant them, you would plant them 6 inches in the soil, and you think, well, that's an awful long way down into the ground. Without that, this is a very weak point where the sprout attaches to the tuber. And when they get to be 4 to 6 feet, sometimes 7 feet tall, you've got your weak point right here. And if you have this up near the soil line, at the first big storm, it's going to break off right there. There's nothing more heartbreaking than having babied this along for 4 months and then lose the whole thing. But if you put it 6 inches down into the soil, then the soil is a very good support. And as you're planting them, you've got a 6-inch hole and you've put them horizontally in there. Only put, an inch of soil in your hole. And then as it grows, fill it in gradually until you get to the surface, and then maybe hill it up a little bit. A lot of people say they have 10 hills of dahlias, and it's because you've given it as much support as you can with the soil around it and prevented losing the whole thing the first time that there's a storm. I start mine indoors early, and I do that because I live in Western New York and we could have a frost at the beginning of September. It's happened. That's terrible. So I start them really, really early so that I can have my flowers in July and August and September, because I show dahlias in shows. All right, this happens to be Bob Schroeder, who lives in the state of Washington, and he's showing how he's tilling in manure and alfalfa pellets. Alfalfa pellets are great. They're great fertilizer. They'll last for months. There's a lot of nitrogen in them. They gradually, as they decompose, they will give off the nitrogen, and he's tilling them in. Leave it in there for a few weeks before they plant their dahlias. Then they plant them. This is a different one. He's got a raised bed. But this is how they look when you've started them indoors and you've put them down 6 inches, and here they are. This is one way of supporting the dahlias, which these have been, each row has got 2 rows of stakes, and they have a grid right here. And as they grow, there'll be add another one every foot. I'm going to go back here. When they're at this stage, they are growing straight up. One single stalk is going to go straight up. But actually, you don't want it to go straight up. Otherwise, you're going to get 5 flowers total. You'll get 1 in the middle, 2 on either side of that first bud, and then 1 set of leaves down, you get 1 more on either side, and then you're done. You don't want that, not for all the work that you're doing. So when it gets to have about 3 or 4 sets of leaves, you're going to pinch the center. So you take the center and hold on to it and snap it off. Right there, you can see that you're going to have side shoots coming, 1, 2, 3, 4 of them. So you're going to have at least 4, perhaps 6 side stalks coming up, and that makes them very full. This picture also shows that they put another layer of the mesh, the wire mesh, and they're using that instead of staking. But most of us stake them individually. This is purple flame, by the way. I love it because of the dark leaves and the color of the flower. It's not a particularly large flower, probably is a B size, which was the 4 to 6 inches. But it's got a sturdy stake, and you would attach them every 12 inches. You would stake them, and you would tie them up to the stake. And that's what you need. This is my yard, and I'm showing you this with humility because there's also weeds here. But I wanted to show you that I live by the woods, and I have a whole family of deer, and the deer love dahlias. So the fence wasn't enough. I had to put bamboo up here, and I have fishing line. The 30-pound fishing line is not, it's not really, right now I can see them, but they usually are not very visible, and the deer could go up 6 feet if they see it, but they don't. They come up and they come against something they don't understand what it is, and they back away. So this is how I have to do it. I want anything that is not deer food. So this is mine. I kind of like color, and I like the smaller ones. I also like the dark. This is, I forgot what this one is called. Iced tea, I think, with the dark leaves. And more in my garden. This is my front yard. This is a dahlia cut flower farm in Livingston County. And we all came to look at this one. It was a really amazing day. This man grows dahlias not to show them in shows or to sell the tubers. He sells florists, and he's very successful. Another way to grow dahlias, and I like to do this, is buy seeds. This is the Dahlia Seeds, and they call this paleobract. I call it chaff. So there's seeds and there's chaff. And the seeds, I put this in just so I could take a picture because it's kind of early for seeds. I put the seeds on a damp paper towel, and I put the paper towel inside a baggie, an open baggie, because I didn't want a lot of moisture to build up there, but I did want to be able to see how they germinated. And about half of them did. I take a tweezers and then I plant them. And this is how they were starting. Now, it takes about 6 weeks for them to catch up to starting from tubers. It takes them about 6 weeks, but after that, they'll grow just as fast as tubers. The thing about seeds is that you never know what they're going to look like. They do not grow true to form. They don't. If you want something and you like what you have to use you'll have to grow only from tubers. If you want surprises, do you want to have experiments? Try seeds. They're really great. I grew from seeds. And this is what the seed pod looks like when it's on the plant. I didn't keep these. These are great pollinators. If you have a pollinator garden, grow the open-centered ones. In fact, all of these that I didn't keep, I am donating to the Monroe County Cooperative Extension, Cornell Cooperative Extension, because they're having a pollinator garden. So, this is a seed pod, and this was one of my seedlings. Nice for last year, but I didn't keep it. And these bees love them. The open ones, they love them. And I liked seeing them last year. It's just I like growing seeds every year, and I can't keep everything. So I am donating them to a pollinator garden. This one I am keeping. And the reason that I am keeping it is, you see my hand, it's larger than my hand. It's a good size. The colors are good, and it has a closed center. I'm keeping it for another year. I'm keeping this one. I liked this one. And I'm keeping this one. Has a closed center. It has many rows of arrayed florets, and I think it could be something. But the other ones, as well as some that I didn't show you, I couldn't keep them. Here's another one. I am keeping this one. This is an orchid, and the orchid form, this isn't a good picture of an orchid form. They should be all rolled like this. Actually, I think I didn't save this one. This one went in with the pollinator ones. I saved this one. This is a really good example of an orchid dahlia. It's rotated all the way in. It's got exactly 8. And it had many flowers. It was floriferous. All of those things are things that dahlia judges look for. So that one, if it made it, because I have mice in my garage, if it makes it, this is one that I'm keeping. Now, it gets to be at the end of the summer, gets to be show time. This is a small county fair. It's from, this one was from Wayne County. So those of us who grow dahlias in the Rochester Dahlia Society, we like to grow them and we like to exhibit them. So we did it there and we judged them. Some of them were better than others. But even though you don't have a Dahlia Society where you live, there will be a county fair, And dahlias are just so beautiful that if you were to exhibit them in your county fair, everybody would enjoy them. This is some more at the Wayne County Fair. This was the Rochester Dahlia Society show last year. It's large. It's a medium size show. We have them all. We have them all by classification. We go by the American Dahlia Society classification guide. So all of them that are alike, the same size, the same shape, go together. And the one here, that's a red one. So, and this is red. This was second prizes. The blue ones, those were the best of each class. They went to a special table, the table of honor. This is some more of that same show, the medium show. So we had about 300 flowers this last year. And there's people, these are all the people that came to this garden center because they knew that the show was on. This one is Longwood Garden in Philadelphia. And this is a national show. People from all over the country, people from all over the world come to the American Dahlia Society national shows. And this was one of the rooms. There were 7 rooms. This is another room. And this is one of the ones that I have a picture of this so I can show you that everybody loves the big flowers, the full flowers, but these flowers win too. Some more. And they also had a whole lot of design categories. This one was bird cages. They had a whole bunch, all of them together. I do not know what the what was the theme for these, for that one, but I liked the flowers. So I took pictures. This was the Court of Honor. Every one of these won. They have the medallions, they all won, and they were not the big ones. They were the open-centered. They're still beautiful. Some more of the Court of Honor. This was the last year's National Dahlia Society. The one in Philadelphia was 3 years ago. Last year, I went to Worcester, Ohio, and this was an even bigger show. They had so many rooms. And they had also themes. This was their design category. This category was Twin Towers. And look how each person would interpret that differently. They have the 2 here, and they have the 2 towers here. Twin Towers. This also was the Twin Tower. Never forget. So there's their interpretation. Here's this one, their interpretation with the fire truck. But they were all beautiful. They were all different. But the theme, they took the theme and they interpret it differently. I just love the way each person thinks. Here's some more of the designs. Oh, okay. We're all finished with the shows. This is what we're going to do next. We're going to dig them out of the ground. Dig them out using a pitchfork rather than a shovel, because with the shovel, they would, you're going to slice right through your tubers. It doesn't kill them, but they don't care for it all that much. So this is lifting dahlias. This was a photograph by two friends of mine, Debbie and Tom Tian. They are also master gardeners with Cornell Cooperative Extension in Rochester. After Debbie had dug them, she washed them and dried them. Then the next thing to do is to divide them. All right, so here they're ready to divide. This one is bleach and this one is soapy water. Between clumps, it's always good to disinfect your utensils so that you don't spread any kind of disease. Here's how you do it. This is a nice, easy clump. And so here is your crown, here is your neck, here is your body. Another crown, another neck, another body. First thing I would do is I would cut this one straight through. This is the center stalk. You always go through the center stalk because that's how you know that you haven't cut the eyes off. A lot of first-time people, they'll go along and they'll cut here, 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 all the way around, and they think they've got it, and they end up with nothing because all of their eyes were right here in the middle. So, first thing, cut straight through down the middle. That's what they did. This is the mother tuber. The mother tuber is the one you started with. So you end up with a whole clump, but you don't need to put a whole clump in the next year. You only need one with a neck and an eye. So after this one is broken. This one is broken. This one gets cut off. This one is rotten. This one is going to get cut off. So what else did they do? Okay, they cut down the middle. They got rid of the rotten one that was here. They got rid of the mother tuber that was here. A lot of times the mother tuber has rot that you can't see. It's on the inside. So that one that you started with, the mother tuber, has ended up with at least four for next year. I would have cut this one down right here because you can see that there's going to be eyes because you've got a neck here. So I would cut it here, and you can see that there's 1, 2, 3 eyes on this one. I would cut this one right down the middle. But you don't have to. Keeping them in twos helps them to store better. Before you store them, dry them off for a day and then put them in some kind of material, vermiculite or wood shavings, not peat moss. A lot of people have tried peat moss. Peat moss is very drying. It would pull all the moisture out of the tuber. So, and this time they showed you where all your eyes were. There's an eye, there's an eye, there's an eye. And it's all because they made sure that they went through the stalk and they kept the crown. And don't forget to disinfect the tools between the plants. 10% bleach is good, and for about 30 seconds. And then soapy water afterwards. Every once in a while, there are just diseases. A lot of Mosaic viruses, very, very prevalent right around here. Mosaic viruses, actually, the tomato, tomato virus, yeah, they have tomato virus also. But tobacco virus is the same as mosaic virus. And so if anybody around is smoking in your backyard and they throw a butt out on the ground, it could be absorbed by the tubers and it causes mosaic virus. If your clump has mosaic virus or tomato spotted virus or any of several other things, using the same tools on the next clump very often transfers that virus. You don't want to do that. Here's my garage. This is how I store mine. I store them in vermiculite, which vermiculite is in here, and I store them in wood shavings. I do that because my garage is insulated but not heated. So I have 2 cars that go in my garage and I use them as my portable heaters. It keeps it, and I have a really good thermometer in there. I really keep track of what the temperature is. It can get down to about, tubers will freeze at 28 degrees. When you have a frost, anything above ground freezes at 32. But you get to be 30 and you're sort of okay. 28, okay for overnight, but any more than that and they will freeze. And this is my vermiculite, and here's my clump that I will cover up and then stack. I wouldn't have these exposed because they would freeze a lot faster if they're exposed than if you've got them completely covered. So that's the Year of Growing Dahlias. So I just thought, I've got a whole bunch of flowers I want to show you. This is Vasiomegos. That very first picture that I was going to say slide, I guess these are not slides, was the red one. I said that's Spartacus. Spartacus had a sport. It had a genetic mutation and the form is the same, the size is the same, but the color went to lavender. And there's Vasiomegos, the white one is Louis Megos. There's a Steve Megos that's kind of orange. They have, you just never know. That's something it's fun to see. But this is Vasiomegos, a sport of Spartacus. This one I put in there just to show you this is fake. And this picture came from Amazon. Do not buy dahlias from Amazon. They'll say that they have seeds from this, or they will give you this. It's very often, it's a scam. Do not buy your tubers or seeds from Amazon. The Dahlia seeds that I showed you when I said I started from seed, they look very, very much like zinnia seeds, very close to zinnia seeds. And there are many, many people who have bought seeds on Amazon, and they almost always are zinnia seeds, because dahlias do not form seeds as easily as things like zinnias. So anyway, cute, but not real. Dahlias do not have a gene for blue. This one's Bumble Rumble. This one is a collarette, has 1 row of outside petals and little petaloids inside. This one I put on here because this is my seedling. I named it Mary's First, and it has been judged and is going into the classification guide, the American Dahlia Society classification guide. I got kind of proud of that one. It's a water lily. This one is, oh, this was one of the ones that I did for a show because we have macros. Now, actually, it's 12:53. Do you only go to one? Do you want time for questions, or do you want to see the rest of my pictures?
Why don't we go through the pictures? Yeah, kind of.
Okay, I'll just go through fast.
Yeah.
Here's pictures. This one is, these bees love them. They're great pollinators. This is a ball. See how the petals, instead of being flat and out, they've come up rounded? That's a perfect ball. This is also a ball. This is laciniated. I told you how they would look very lacy. That's North Lake Heritage, in case you wanted to know. This one is AC Fancy. This one is Shadow Cat. This one is Wildcat. This is Everything Together at the end of my yard. Oh, and at the Rochester Dahlia Society, we always have one. They have one big display that's very, very tall. This was about 6 feet tall. It was one person does one every year. And this was the next year. She was still into wedding cakes. But then she got a garden angel, another garden angel. And this was Miss Rochester. She called it Miss Rochester last year. And these were my design, just because I wanted to show you my design. This was Dahlias Go to the Movies. This was Carousel. See, I have this merry-go-round. And this one was supposed to be actually 4th of July, but then we had to call it Dahlias with Friends because the butterfly came into the garden center and loved my flowers. This one was Finding Nemo. Here's the blue water, and here are the anemones, and there's Nemo. I'm almost finished, so you can, this one, do I have to tell you what this one is? You know what this is. And that's it. I'm done. So if you have any questions, ask me.
Well, Mary, I think that was fantastic. I loved it.
You were, it was really okay. Thanks.
I think it was great. And you got a lot of questions. So
Okay, I'll answer.
Okay, fire away, Marcy.
Okay, so let's see here. I'm rolling up to the top. Beth asked, so did she just say when initially planting it, don't make the soil to the top level of the ground?
I did. You can, but you cannot tell. Well, first of all, you can't tell if it's rotting down there or if anything's happening. You put it all the way up. It's growing up 6 inches. It doesn't always have a lot of energy left over from the winter, and it may get up a couple of inches and then just decide it just hasn't got enough energy, and it will rot. And then 6 weeks later, you'll say, well, why don't I see anything? And then you've lost 6 weeks. So you put it in a whole 6 inches for the reason that I said, you need the support, but only just cover it. And then as it comes up and it gets some sun and it turns green and it gets a little more energy, you can cover it again. And then it'll grow up another couple inches, and you cover it again all the way to the top, but not at first.
Okay, all right. Next question is, when she says she starts hers really early in pots indoors, when is really early?
6 weeks before you're going to set them out. I don't know what it's like in Rensselaer, but in Monroe County, we could have a frost in the middle of May, so we do it the week before Memorial Day. So 6 weeks before you plant them out, put them in your pot. Or I don't always put pots. I use the trays that you get from the garden center, and I line them with newspaper, and I will put them horizontally in there, alternating them, like one with the neck up, one with the neck in the other direction, so that they're not in competition as they're growing. So I use those.
Okay. Deborah says, I thought dahlias were sensitive to too much nitrogen. Won't the alfalfa pellets provide too much nitrogen?
Nitrogen does not stay in the soil very long. It washes right through, where phosphorus, potassium, that builds up in the soil, and you really can't use the regular 10-10-10 or 5-10-5. You can't really use those without having a soil analysis where the cooperative extension. I don't know, do you have soil analysis where you are? We do here.
Oh, yeah.
All right, so it's good to find out how much potassium, how much phosphorus you've got in your soil, because there's a lot of sources and it stays in the soil. But nitrogen is short acting. It's water soluble, it goes right through. And when your dahlias are starting out, for the first month or so, they need nitrogen. You need them to grow faster, you need them to grow stronger, you need them to be darker green, and you need them to be vigorous. And in with the nitrogen, it's good to put in Epsom salts too, because it could use some magnesium too. But after that, not so much. Low nitrogen later.
Okay. My seedlings from seed are about 1.5 inches tall now, but the tips have turned light brown. Not sure why. They're under lights and also on heating pads. Will they survive, or do you know what this is?
I do not use heating pads. The heating pads get really warm. They may be browning because they're burning. They might be too warm. Or they could be too close to the lights. I don't know how close. They shouldn't be any closer than 5 inches to the lights, because the heat from your lights, unless they're the newest lights that don't give off any heat, they'll burn easily. They're so fragile right now.
Okay. How do you keep earwigs off the plants?
Biological control, pick them off one at a time. What really works well is if you have an old hose, old garden hose, and that you're going to throw away, you cut it up into like 4 inches, 4-inch lengths, and you use hair clips and you clip it to your stake. And you have earwigs love to hide in the garden hose, in those pieces right at the top of the stake, right at the top where the flowers are, about the same level. So you would get those pieces, you get the hair clips, and you would attach them to the stake. And then in the morning, come around with a pail of soapy water, unclip it, and knock it in there. All the earwigs will be in there.
Good trick. All right, the next question has got a couple questions within a question. So I'll just go through it. First part is, what makes a flower bigger or more colorful?
Yes.
The next part, I heard your recommendation that alfalfa pellets are good. I'm trying to use household garbage to fertilize, and I've read coffee grounds and banana peels are good. What would you agree?
Coffee and banana peels are good, but not without composting. As they compost, they get hot, and dahlia tubers do not like a lot of heat. They burn easily. And so you don't want them uncomposted. They're great. Banana peels and coffee grinds are great in compost, in with grass clippings and things as part of, but not by themselves. They will burn too quickly. Also, as they decompose, they use nitrogen. They would steal all the nitrogen from the soil and decomposition, which is why you also don't want to put wood chips around your dahlias, because as the wood chips decompose, they also steal the nitrogen.
Okay, what about the first part? What makes a flower bigger or more colorful?
A flower it comes true to size. True to variety. A flower will not be any bigger than it is supposed to be, but how you can get the maximum of variety is by just budding. When you see a bud come up, there will be two little buds, one on either side of it, and you've got to snap those off early. Otherwise, your center flower will be smaller, but you sacrifice the other blooms for your bigger flower. Unless I'm using it for a show, I let them all grow.
Okay. They're asking when the Rochester show is.
The Rochester show will be on September 18th this year.
Okay. Where is that? Somebody asked.
It is going to be at Bristol Garden Center, which is right off the thruway, right off Route 90 at Victor.
My basement is the only place I can overwinter my tubers in the frigid weather.
Yeah.
And it is very warm. While the tubers are okay, I have some damage over the course of the winter. I have used peat moss and loosely covered plastic totes. Do you have a suggestion for me?
The warmer your basement is, the more you should switch to vermiculite. Wood shavings give off a little bit of heat on their own. And so if you've got a warmer basement and you've got wood shavings, you've got two things going against you. The vermiculite is a good insulator, but it doesn't have any heat of its own. And keep them up against your basement walls and farthest away from the furnace.
Okay. I have a pink one that's pretty light, but the stem doesn't hold up. Oh, okay, that's pretty light, but the stem doesn't hold up to cuttings. When do you decide if these are worth keeping?
Magnesium helps to strengthen, and calcium. You know, everybody's got all these eggshells, and the eggshells get thrown away. They get, and if you put eggshells around your plant, the calcium strengthens the stems, but there are certain varieties that just have weak stems. So they will say that a variety is good for the garden or it is good for showing, but the ones that have the weaker stems, it's in the genetics. You can strengthen it with the calcium and with magnesium, but because magnesium helps the uptake of minerals. But there really isn't anything you can do with genetics.
Okay. Should the tubers be wrapped to keep over the winter? Do you wrap them?
There are people who wrap them in plastic wrap. I have never had any luck with them because they rot on me. But if you have a really cool place that doesn't fluctuate, then you can wrap them in plastic. If you're going to wrap them in newspaper, they would be better off in vermiculite or in wood shavings, I think, than wrapping them, because there's too much air that's going to help them, that's going to make them dry out if they're just loosely wrapped.
Okay, so there's still a bunch more questions, so I'm gonna try to like go through these.
Okay.
What's the best way to wash and dry them?
You don't always have to wash and dry them. I let them dry with the soil on if I don't cut them in the fall. If you're going to cut them in the fall, then wash them with a garden hose and put them out. You can't put them directly on concrete. You can't put them directly on the driveway, but put newspaper under them, dry them for a couple hours, turn them over another couple hours, and that's good enough.
Okay. Is there a maximum sun for Dahlia? Heard 5-hour advisory for sunlight minimum.
Yes, there's a minimum, but there's not a maximum. If they're in the sun all day, then you'd need to water them more often, but they like it just fine.
Okay. Can the vermiculite be saved and used from year to year?
Vermiculite, it does not hold mold, any kind of spores. Vermiculite can be used year after year. Wood shavings, put it out in your garden.
Okay. If you leave the dahlias in the ground and buy a new one for the next year, is there a hazard of disease, or should you just plant elsewhere in the garden?
No, the disease will not stay over the winter.
Okay.
If you leave them in the ground, maybe not plant directly over them, but it isn't going anything would. I don't know if I would. If I see anything with a disease, I'd pull them out. If it doesn't look like it has a disease, then you're okay.
Okay, people are saying well done. I would love to hear about how and when to fertilize.
Once a month, but stop. But in the middle of summer, just put a little more pellets, alfalfa pellets on.
Do you have a fertilizer that you recommend?
No. No, I just use the regular 10-10-10, just regular fertilizer, but I do use Epsom salts in there always.
Okay. Can pollinators access the closed center, or do they not go to the open, or do they only go to the open center ones?
They only go to the open centered ones, but towards the fall, the cold weather makes the closed centered ones open up faster, and they will go to the opened centered. But the way that that dahlias have been hybridized, they've been hybridized to hold their centers, and so those are not good for pollinators at all.
Okay.
I think we should just do maybe 2 or 3 more.
Yeah,
We don't want to let Mary go. We don't want to wear her out.
they're just coming in as fast as I can read.
Let's just keep going, folks, but we're just going to have to do, I'll let Marcy pick 2 or 3 more, and then we're going to.
I talked too
What a day.
long. I apologize.
Oh, no, that's good. That's fine.
Somebody's asking if squirrels like dahlias, like if they are bothered by them.
They are not. I have not. I live in the swamp, and I just have animals, and the squirrels do not bother.
Good, good. How do you feel about growing dahlias in landscape fabric?
And be fine. I think it's fine. I would put something over the fabric because most landscape fabrics are black and it just heats the soil up too much. Put something over the landscape fabric.
Okay, and the last one, do you use neem oil for pests during the growing season?
Just particularly me, I do not. I take a garden hose and I hit the bottom of the flowers really hard and anything falls right off.
And there's so many people that are saying thank you and such great information, and they really liked it. So thank you.
I appreciate your saying that. Thank you very much.